So in part 3, we are going to learn about the preliminary test and confirmatory test for functional group. So in this part, you are going to be only familiar with the name of the test. I am not going to tell you about the how to do the test or how to go in for confirmatory analysis, but let us be familiar only with the number of tests. Then once you are familiar, in part 4, we will be learning how to do the test and what will be the observation. So these are the 7 tests where you have an experiment, observation and inference column. The first one is odor, which means a smell. So you have different compounds have different types of smells. So when you smell an organic compound, remember, do not take the test tube or the sample container to your nose. You should just wave off, and only the vapors you need to slightly smell and see. It is always not advisable to smell the test tube or the sample container in which they give the sample to you. The second test is called as a test with litmus paper. So if you are given a red litmus paper, you can take a drop of the solution and place it on the litmus, and if it turns blue, it means it is alkaline. If you are given a blue litmus and if you take a drop of the solution and leave it on the paper and it becomes red, it is supposed to be acidic. So blue litmus becoming red is acidic and red litmus becoming blue is alkaline or basic. The third test is test action with sodium bicarbonate. So when we say sodium bicarbonate, what should come to your mind is like the soda bottle effervescence. The moment you open a soda bottle, you can get that effervescence, no? So that effervescence is because any bicarbonate compound may liberate carbon dioxide. So that effervescence should come to your mind, and this is an exclusive test for acids. Then action with Bosch reagent. Later on in part 4, I will let you know what is Bosch reagent and how to do the test. The next one is charring test. It is also called as flame test. So at home you might have seen the flame which is blue in color in a gas stove. That is called as a non-luminous flame. Whereas in temples or when you light camphor, the orange flame which you get is called as a sooty flame. So this you can get by doing the flame test or charring test. And the sixth preliminary test is called as test for aliphatic or aromatic nature, which is again the ignition test. And then you have the seventh test, which is called as test for unsaturation, which is test with bromine and also bromine water, and also test with potassium permanganate solution, where you can find out whether the compound given to you is a saturated compound or an unsaturated compound. Like for example, cinnamic acid or cinnamaldehyde is only unsaturated, are the only unsaturated compounds prescribed for you, whereas all the other compounds, they are saturated compounds, including sugar and urea. So what are the 7 preliminary tests? One is odor, second is test with litmus paper, action of sodium bicarbonate, action of Bosch reagent, charring test, ignition test, and test for unsaturation. And these are the 7 preliminary tests which has to be recorded in this type of pattern. That is, you have to write the experiment, and whatever you get, you will write the observation and then inference. So now let us see the test for selected organic functional groups. There are 7 tests. One is the test for phenol, which is otherwise the neutral ferric chloride test. When it comes to neutral ferric chloride test, you should remember blue color or buff color precipitate, which is characteristic, and when we do the test, I will let you know for what it is. For now, you have to understand neutral ferric chloride test is test for phenol, and for acids also this test will answer. For phenol means you can remember the blue color solution or violet color solution, and for acids you may get a skin color, which is always called as a buff colored precipitate. The second test is a esterification test, and the third test is test for aldehydes, where we use Tollens reagent and Fellings test. Fourth test is Ligas test, which is test for ketone. Fifth test is a dye test, test for primary amine. Sixth test is biuret test, which is a test for urea or diamide. And the seventh test is a Molish test and Ozone test, which is characteristic for glucose or dextrose, which comes under the category reducing sugar or carbohydrates. So what are the 7 tests? Test for phenol, esterification reaction, test for aldehyde, test for ketone, test for amines, test for diamide, and test for carbohydrates. Now once you do the preliminary test and the test for or the functional group, you will be able to identify the functional group present, after which the report should be in this format. The given organic compound is an aromatic or aliphatic, strike of 1, saturated or unsaturated, any one, contains, if it is an acid, write acid functional groups, if it's an amide, write amide functional group, ketone functional group, contains sugar or reducing carbon, reducing sugar as the functional group. Like that you will have to give the report. So the next part, in part 4 we will see how to do the preliminary test. So to sum up, in part 3 we have seen the 7 headings for preliminary test and 7 tests which are for functional groups. Thank you.